Hi, it's nice to meet you all. I'm going to go back into full screen. I truly apologize that we were not able to do this early on in the semester, but as you guys know, I was having crazy difficulties with Blackboard. So it just was not working out, and I was getting kicked out like multiple times per day. But now I wanted to make sure we had the opportunity to at least meet each other once and hang out and talk about the final creative brief if there was any questions about that, and just wrapping up the class, any questions about that at all. So my first question, and feel free to just unmute your mic whenever you want to chime in, for you guys is, how have things been going for you in the class? How do you feel about it? Hey, Chris.
Hello, how you doing?
Good.
Jennifer and I are Jennifer and I the only students in this video chat?
No, is she the only one you can see?
Yeah, I only see Jennifer and I see Dr. Harris. You.
Oh, well, that's fine. I have it on gallery view in mine because I like to see everybody all at once. If you have it on speaker view, it tends to, you fix it?
I just fixed it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like to see everyone at once. It's a bunch of you guys here. So how do you like the class, Chris?
Oh, I like it. It's very interesting, and I'm learning new things. So I enjoy it a lot.
Okay.
That's my honest opinion.
I hope so. This is a safe space. You guys don't have to. We're almost done now, so you can tell me the truth. And actually, one of the points for the reminders is that the course evaluations are certainly open right now until Wednesday, I believe. So feel free to at least give me a preview of what you guys think or what you're going to have put in those evaluations. Anyone else have any thoughts about the class in general? Learning a lot? Learning too much, blowing your mind?
I really like the discussions that you had us do. I felt like they were really interactive. And it was beyond the textbook, which is not normal for an online class.
Yeah, I think that, so you guys really liked my podcast with my friend Phil, right? I love him so much. I was like, he is just now about to come back from Europe in a day or two. He left right after we recorded, literally the next day, for a 2-week backpacking adventure through Europe. His life is way more exciting than mine at this point. But I love him. He's so insightful. And I really think that the nature of advertising, if you take anything from this class, requires you to have your textbook in hand for sure, so you can know the basics, but to constantly be in places and in spaces like Adweek or Ad Age or at a conference, right? Because things are changing, particularly right now, so fast that just reading a textbook is it's not going to cut it, unfortunately. So I was really, really grateful that he was able to chat with us, especially the same weekend that I watched him launch his famous like KD commercial with the finals, and I was in the room and he couldn't even tell me. So that was something that was left off of the podcast, is that I didn't know that's what he was doing because he literally could not tell me. And I was like headed out to the pool and I was like, why are you not swimming? The finals, it's fixed, it's rigged. And just went outside. And then later he was like, well, I had to like be on my email and do all this important advertising stuff. And if they won, then I had to launch the commercial. So I couldn't leave the room and I couldn't tell you. And I was like, okay, whatever. But yeah, so I love that he was able to do that. And I really think that you guys are going to like this final discussion forum with the webinars. Has anyone, a few of you guys have done it already? The webinar? Any of you? Yes. Which one did you do? What did you listen to?
I did one based off of like data profiling from Target and how to get more people to listen to your business or look into your business based off of the website Pinterest.
Right.
Because I see a lot of like sponsorships and stuff when I'm browsing on there. And It was interesting and cool to see how well or how responsive people are to those sponsorships.
Yeah, well, that whole sponsorship thing on Pinterest is like kind of fairly new, like within the past year or so. But it's such a good space to actually link to your site because people who are on Pinterest are really motivated, right? We're like, oh, I have this board I'm planning for my outfit or my dream home or my wedding or whatever the case may be. And we're looking for ideas. And what better way to just go ahead and roll it on over, or based on all of the data that we're providing on the boards, the things that we like, the things that we're collecting, you know me inside and out. You know where I want a vacation. You know what
Right.
kind of wedding I'm planning. You know what kind of food I like to eat, what kind of exercises I like to do. So you have really good information about me. So that sounds really interesting. And see, that's an area that our textbook, you literally can't print this stuff fast enough to keep up with that. So I think that's why I wanted to close out the class with having you guys go over to Adweek and looking at some of those on-demand webinars, because they keep them coming like once a week. They're always on the brink of what we're really doing right now in the field and in the industry and what people need to know right now. And we don't necessarily have time to go through the whole scholarly publication process, right, in order to understand that. So that's cool. Anyone else got started on that assignment already? No. Well, you guys better get started. It's due Monday instead of Tuesday this week. So I didn't want to be that guy to make you guys turn in something on the 4th, even though that was the pattern. So I broke the pattern, and it's due tomorrow by 8 p.m. instead of Tuesday. Okay, so let's see. Any questions, any lingering questions for me that you feel unfulfilled or unsatisfied? So you've taken this class on advertising. It's the only one we offer. Is there anything else going into our last week that you feel like you didn't learn a lot of, or you didn't really understand it, or we could have done a better job talking about that? I mean, I still have time to get you guys some resources or get you plugged into something in this last week. Just go ahead and unmute yourself if you want to add. Nobody? No one at all? Hold on, let me see. I'm going to unmute everybody, because I feel like with everyone being muted, you're like scared to press the unmute button. And in the past, I've never had that. So we're just going to unmute it, and then everyone can just talk, and you don't have the pressure of unmuting yourself. Okay, so anything that you wanted to learn that we haven't learned or talked about, or any questions about anything?
No, the thing is, for me, I was just pushed in a different direction, because technology is not my stronghold. I sort of shy away from technology, and of course, you pushed me into all the podcasts and all these different things. So I enjoyed, the class altogether.
Well, good. Well, that's the direction that we have to go in, unfortunately.
Yeah.
As much as I would like for us to be able to do everything old school, it's not a reality at all. Any other questions or thoughts? Do you guys feel comfortable with everything you learned right now? You're ready to go apply for a job? No, not quite?
No.
Okay, well, that was my shot, because I was ready to put whatever. I mean,
something.
Oh, what is it, Jennifer? Yes.
So I liked I think it was the first assignment that you gave us, that you told me that I was going more on like the PR side than advertising side. So I think that really helped me to take a step back and like notice the differences. For right now, everything is like PR and promotions and everything. So I need to know the difference between the two. And then when I went to go meet with the lady for the Asia Society, she was letting me know like everything that they need for the center. So I think that really helped me put the two things separately. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, well, so she actually touched on something I tried to like get out as many times as I could in kind of like my memos that I was sending out, is a lot of times when we're taking advertising for the first time, we conflate the two, advertising and PR. And don't get me wrong, they are very, very closely related, right? Because even though they say the end goal of public relations is to establish this goodwill, why do you need goodwill? So people spend their money with your company. So the bottom line is always to get the money, but the strategies and tactics and how we do it is very different. And public relations is more long-term. So you have a good PR team and you want to keep that up. 5-year goals, 10-year goals, you want to establish these things. Whereas you can reach an advertising team and say, hey, I got a 3-month window. What can you do for me right now? Right. And so you don't have enough time to, oh, we're going to contact the mayor and throw this grand event and we're going to do door knock. No, I have this clear objective. It needs to be done now, which can seem a little bit more cutthroat, but that's truly what it is. There's a very hard bottom line in advertising, whereas in public relations, it's more dialogic. And that's something that I think 1302 is a prerequisite for this class. I've been teaching 1302. Obviously, I've only been at UHD for 2 years now. So I've been teaching it since I got there. And we spent a lot of time really talking about the differences between the two and how they're very closely related. I think that advertising forces you to be clear about what it is that you want. And that's something that Phil touched on and the book touches on a lot. You have to know from going in, I need this to happen and in what time frame, because that is how we measure your success. It's not like public relations is really, you can't really measure. Are we doing it right? I don't know. No one has sued us yet. They don't hate us. That's kind of where you measure that. Whereas advertising is very clear. Did you come through on what you said you were going to do? No, you're not getting paid. That's it. Or yes, you did and you exceeded it by 25%. Now you get a bonus. It's very clear. And sometimes that clarity works. Sometimes it makes people get a little, anxious. So I'm glad you brought that up. But I think there are like 2 public relations classes that are taught at UHD. Professor Meenit teaches one, if I'm not mistaken, and it tends to be pretty full. So I know you would probably enjoy that quite a bit.
Thank you.
Anything else? No. Okay, so let's talk about the final creative brief. Have you all had the opportunity to look at the assignment, feel really comfortable with the final assignment, or questions about it?
How in depth is it going to be compared to the examples given in chapter 2?
Way more in depth.
It's like extremely?
No, I mean, not extremely in depth, but chapter 2 was like what, maybe 1 or 2 sentences for each.
Right.
So that's something you can do. I mean, they're always typically going to have a similar format, but it's more simplified, right? The examples. What I'm looking for from you guys after spending the past 4 weeks really digging into the client is something that really demonstrates that you have figured it out, right? You know the client, you know them inside and out, you know the features and the benefits, you know what they need, you have a clear objective, and you know how you're going to pursue it. You know how you're going to fulfill that. So whereas they might say 2 to 3 sentences in some areas, I'm definitely looking for like 2 to 3 paragraphs.
Okay.
So in your executive summary, that's an area that I really want to see a lot of meat in. And that's the feedback that I gave a lot of you guys in your client overview. I want to know, when they started, how have they impacted the community, things like that. And then the other really meaty part is going to be in your strategy. So really telling me about the strategy that you selected, why you selected it, why it's going to work well for your target audience, right? So another area that you really want to beef up a little bit is the description of your target audience so that you know them inside and out. And you can say, based on the fact that I'm getting millennials who like to be on Snapchat, this is why I made this decision, right? Or on the other side, based on the fact that this client services people who don't have the financial means to access stable internet, we're not going to use social media, right? So social media is not a one-size-fits-all, especially if you're trying to target a specific audience that doesn't even have access to mobile connectivity, or, they don't have time to spend their whole day on Instagram because they're worried about where their next meal is going to come from. You probably don't want to tell people who need meals on wheels to follow us on Instagram, right? Like, can I get my meal from Instagram? No. So there has to be a different strategy. So being able to really connect that together is what I'll be looking for.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Kinda. I think it's a little bit harder. I've done one before, but it's been for an actual brand or company rather than a non-profit organization. I think that's the part that I'm struggling with.
Right. And so that is something, we can talk about that, you guys. I have in the past left the client open for students. but I found that the freedom was way too overwhelming, right? So people were really struggling with trying to figure out who they wanted to target and why they wanted to target them, et cetera, et cetera. And so this was my attempt of trying to figure out where this feedback is coming from. So this was my attempt of trying to give just a little bit guidance, but still some freedom, right? And a good starting point. And I know that a lot of people say, oh, well, it's a nonprofit, so there's really, there's nothing that I can sell for them. But that's not true, right? There are several things because they're in the business. Even if it's nonprofit, it's about dollars and cents as well. And so there are things you can do, such as build up their email database, right? If you want to get so many people to click to sign up, if you want to recruit a certain amount of donors, if you want to raise a certain amount of money, dollars, before the end of the year or in the next 6 months. You can also do things just like what Nike was doing with the KD ad that Phil was the go-to on. It wasn't about really anything. It was about brand awareness. It was about making sure it had a certain number of impressions in a 24-hour period. And so that is just really brand awareness or reinforcing what Nike stands for, which is creating winners, blah, 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 right? And so if you can say, this is why it's important for us to have this many impressions over the next 6 months, and that's my goal, then that's your goal. It doesn't have to be about selling something if there's not anything to sell. But certainly, these kind of agencies still require advertisements, and we see them all the time. So, I mean, is that difficult for you guys to think about ways to advertise for a nonprofit?
Just me.
No, me too.
Other people said something too.
Me.
Me too.
Okay. I'm trying to think of what hadn't been done before already, though.
Sure.
So that's my area.
What was the client that you selected again, Sarita? Can you remind me?
The Houston Food Bank.
Oh, okay.
So
well,
it's like
sometimes it's not about reinventing the wheel. It could just be doing something. I mean, I'm sure they have a goal that they need to meet every single year, right? I mean, you think about brands like Nike, Chick-fil-A, AT&T, like they're not doing anything spectacularly new than they've done forever. But for whatever reason, they're still rolling out new advertisements. They still have a fresh goal every year, even if it's just to maintain, even if it's just to say, we need to keep this amount or this level of donations rolling in, or we need to see if we can go over last year's record by 10%, whatever the case may be. And if you're doing it the same way, maybe you need to increase the frequency. Maybe you need to increase, the number of locations, right? Maybe you need to follow it up with, we're going to send out direct mailers, and we're going to have these strategically placed posters in the bus stops in the neighborhood where people are getting the mailers at the same time to see if that does something. So sometimes it's not always necessarily about doing something completely new, but how can you do it differently, right? And make it better than before. Oh, yes, Kaiser.
Wow, you said my name right. I have a question about the target audience, because I was like, it was really hard for me to actually pick a nonprofit organization. I did choose ISGH, I'm pretty sure you know now, but I chose it because, like, in one way it actually fits everything, like for how you want everything, but I'm confused how in my target audience, like the organization is like a donation type of thing. It's like a religious type of thing. So it's like the people, my audience can be the volunteers who want to like be members of the organization, but also outside of the organization, people who may be interested in joining. So how like, I'm kind of confused about that. Like, is it possible to have both audiences, or like?
No, so I think I addressed this after I got through reading all of you guys' client interview and announcement that I sent, that each nonprofit obviously is going to have several different audience segments. And that's any business in general. And this is something that kind of trickles over to public relations, because you think about the word public. And so you have people who are internal in the organization, external outside of the organization, who's giving the money to the organization, who's competing with the organization. But your goal with a clear advertising objective is to pick one, right? So you would know exactly what our audience that you're focusing on based on your objective. If your objective is to increase the number of volunteers because the organization is in a place where they need more volunteers, then clearly your target audience is going to be whoever you think makes a good volunteer. If your objective is to increase the amount of donations, right, by the end of the year, then you're going to say for my target audience is people with disposable income who are looking to give to a nonprofit organization. And in that regard, like I said, a lot of you are all competing with each other, even though it was like, well, no one does this work that I do. Yeah, it doesn't matter if your nonprofit is about dogs or if your nonprofit is about children or food or the homeless, right? If you're based on donations, you're all trying to get people who live in the Houston area who are looking for, I don't want to just say a tax write-off, but a charitable cause, right? So they have money, they want to give it somewhere, and then they have to make the decision, do I want to give it to dogs? Do I want to give it to the homeless? Do I want to give it to a women's shelter? Do I want to give it to Meals on Wheels? You know, or a hospital organization? That's a choice that they have to make, and that's where advertising comes in, because you have to say, this is the right choice. Hello, this is the reason why. This is what you're going to get when you donate to somebody who had the Ronald McDonald House, right? You're giving a parent somewhere to sleep for the night. That's your benefit. And so it's just a matter of looking at it in a different way. But once you get a very clear objective, it simplifies who you're talking to, and you literally don't have to worry about anybody else. Only the people who can help you fulfill that objective.
Okay, that makes sense. Yes. So for that one assignment where you gave us 3 options and I chose my 5 clients, on one of them, I believe, one of them has actually already been a member, and then the other 4 have not. So what would I have to do for this final brief? Should I still include him or just not include him?
The whole point behind the assignment that you all just turned in for the client research was to give you an idea of just literally, it's just a sliver of a taste of what it's like to go out and do research. Right? So even if you don't use, it keeps telling me my internet connection is unstable, but even if you don't use everything that you gathered, that's fine. So I'm not looking for everything that you put in A3 to show up in your creative brief. But the goal was to get you out there so you can conduct an ethnography or do some client interviews, right? And just get even more information. Because in A2, what a lot of you all said when you were trying to do that concepting brainstorming, oh man, I wish I knew more, or I should have known a little bit more. It would help me to know a little bit more. Well, the goal is that after doing that activity, doing this research, if you were trying to do the concepting brainstorm right now, you should have way more ideas. Right? Because you gathered some more knowledge, whether it was just watching people come and go or just feeling people out to see, hey, where's your head at regarding this organization? And so now if you were to go back and do that again, you have more research, you'd probably crank out even more ideas. So it doesn't always translate to, it doesn't need to necessarily show up in the exact same form. It was about getting out there to do the research. Does that help?
So basically, yeah, that's totally understandable. So basically, we can either take whatever information we have gotten, and can we even possibly like add more additional information if we have already gathered more that we didn't use on our other assignments? Okay.
Absolutely, you should.
I'm just kind of nervous about this assignment. You know, I'm just really nervous. That's why.
Don't be nervous. Okay, Liliana, you had a question.
Okay. And it's Melina, but that was good. You did great on Kazir's, but it's Melina. Dr. Harris, this is my question. I've called, I've emailed my client, and I've talked to them, and they actually are very nonchalant about their nonprofit organization. They're not really concerned with anything really growing, with adding to their base. The way they explain it, you give them $25 a year, they'll send you a subscription. And I chose Good News Magazine, and they're not really concerned too much about doing anything more to promote themselves. And I was wondering, it's actually a good magazine. It actually can be a benefit. Is there any way that I can persuade them actually to, maybe look at some of these ideas and actually do more to promote their brand?
Well, you definitely don't have to. So to be clear, I mean, picking a client that was an actual client and giving you an actual address that you can go and look around was just so you can get a better grasp of like how this operates in the real world. But if they're being uncooperative, girl, listen, the sky is the moon. Forget them, right? I mean, the sky is the moon. The sky is the limit. And if you see that there is a clear need, right? Or if in your mind, after taking this class and looking at the work that they're doing, you see opportunities and you see an objective that can be fulfilled, right to that. I'm not taking your creative brief and going to them and saying, step your game up. I'm trying to see, are you getting it, right? Can you demonstrate, you understand how a clear creative or advertising strategy could help them? And it doesn't matter if they get it or not, right? And that's something that what Philip was talking about in the podcast. And unfortunately, advertising takes a lot of money. And so another challenge, if you were really trying to talk to people in these nonprofit organizations, they haven't really thought about it in this way because they don't have a budget. And so when you start getting really strategic, sometimes they are doing the best they can with what they have, right? But maybe if someone's open, you can say, well, I did this for an assignment here. You can just have it and see if this is something you want to implement. And you might like it. I did something very similar when I was in undergrad for a local nonprofit here. And, I was like, if you have the means and the resources to do it, go all out. If you don't, at least get you thinking about something that you could possibly do. So if they're not open to it, and I'm sorry to hear that, but I wish you're more receptive. But as long as your wheels are turning, then you're good to go. I'm not going to judge you on that.
Okay, cool.
Any other questions?
Making sure I had the right idea as well. Like kind of like Kaiser, I was just kind of worried that maybe I was like aiming towards the wrong kind of audience or having two different audiences, because I know I'm the one who's doing the dance group, the Ambassadors International Ballet for Political, and they've been around for about 35 years, and they're a nonprofit organization, but I feel like the way they really make their money is by going on performance. And the dancers, I would consider pretty much like they're volunteers, because the dancers don't get paid. You join the dance group in order to perform for them, and then you through like performances and things like that, that's how they raise more money, and that's how they get more money from different contributors and things like that. And I just wanted to make sure I was like kind of aiming towards the right place by saying that the dancers were my audience. Well, the dancers are people I'm trying to rear in.
If you want to recruit more dancers, for sure, that's something that can definitely be an objective, right? I think one of the things that I gave you for feedback and I gave others was this idea that unfortunately advertisers don't come in and change the way that things are running. So, and that's something that's hard to and it can make your job very frustrating, which is just a real side effect. Public relations is internal. They are the ones with all the power, because if there's not a good PR situation happening for a company, it can quickly go down, right? Most oftentimes, advertising is outsourced. You don't even have pull. You go to somewhere else, an agency or someone outside of the company, and they just come to you and say, this is what we want, and your job is to deliver. You can't then go back to your client and say, well, I really wish you would just do things better. That would make my job easier. They're going to say you're fired, right? Because that's not your job. Your job is to take whatever they get you, bad business and all, crazy dance schedules and all, low perform, whatever the case may be. They give that to you, and you have to make it something great that people buy into, whether it's really great or not. And that's something that I was getting at when I went through the discussion forums this weekend. Giselle was talking about an experience, and I was like, unfortunately, that is a great example of effective advertising, because it gets you to buy whether it's crappy or not. And you hate to admit it, but that's the goal. The goal is to get you to buy. Whether you're going to get there and enjoy it or not, that goes far beyond the realm of advertising. That is a business issue that is internal. It has nothing to do with you. If your goal is to get people in the seats, then you did it, then you won. If your goal was to say, hey, I got you 25 more dancers signed up in 2 months, You did it and you're done, right? And that's the end. And then you go back to the next client. And it can seem kind of cutthroat and very staccato in a sense, and you just want to do so much more. But that is kind of the underlying belly of advertisement, because it's not your job, unfortunately. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Kaiser, did you have another question?
So I don't want to, I'm kind of embarrassed because I want to make sure it's like, okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, basically, and it might be an obvious one, so people are gonna be like, this is obvious, but what I'm understanding is your objective basically will dictate from your options of the targeted audience, correct? So like, if your objective, like you were saying, is to get 25 more volunteers or members to your organization, then that should be your targeted audience, nothing else, just that, correct?
Yes,
okay.
And it goes back to your research, and it goes back to what you're doing. And so when I say recruit more dancers, she's working for a dance studio, of course, right? And so you do an advertising campaign to recruit more dancers. That is something that you can do. If your goal for your nonprofit is to get more volunteer dancers, then very simply that's your campaign. It is to put dancers up on billboards or have them, on the side of a bus to say, wouldn't you like this to be you? And you get 2,500 people to sign up and say they'd be willing to try out. You've done what you were supposed to do. It's not about anything else. So those kind of go very closely together based on what aspect it is that you're going to choose for your objective. Basically, when I put in one of the memos I sent out, your objective is, what do you want to happen as a result of your campaign, right? What do you want to do for this client? What actionable item? It has to be something. It's not just like, oh, people should just feel good, right? It has to be something that can be measured, that we can show. I set out to get you X amount of donors, X amount of dollars, X amount of volunteers, this amount of, impressions on my Google ad, whatever the case may be, and I did it. That's what happened as a result of my work with this campaign. So that's what your objective should be. Cool.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But see, now that you were talking, as you were talking, I'm thinking about it, and I'm just like, so if my objective is to raise money, it's kind of hard for me because the targeted audience that I have is the people in the organization and people that might be wanting to join, because that's what they will do. Part of being a member in the organization is you have to donate, not donate, but like you have to pay a member fee monthly. So that money is basically the donation. So that's why I'm like, who am I gonna target? Like,
so then your objective is not to raise money. Your objective, that's a secondary objective. Your objective is to raise members, is to increase the amount of memberships. And as a result of having more members, you'll get more.
Then you get the money. Okay.
So then if you get 500 people to sign up, you got them more money because you got 500 people to sign up.
Okay.
Any other, if you guys have specific questions, I've always been open to doing a one-on-one for sure, and we can do something very similar to this one-on-one, and you can pick my brain. But I'm trying to be mindful of time because it's 8:36. But any other general questions about the brief? Anything that is just confusing at all, that doesn't seem intuitive?
It needs to be an APA format, right?
Yes. I'm really big on section headings, please. Cover page and section headings will definitely get points knocked off if they're not there. You don't have to do the abstract. I know some people are like, hey, there should be an abstract. That's on a research paper. But everything else, yes. So please make sure you're doing that correctly. And that's just not for me, you guys. That's for you. Because hopefully you're keeping all of these assignments for your portfolio. When you graduate, you'll need things to include in there. And I absolutely want you to have a very polished document that shows your creativity and your professionalism that you can stick in there. And so that's why I'm a stickler for stuff like that. Any other questions? So I'm going to exit out here just for a second and do share my screen so you can see. Yeah, I think that's it. Just in case you guys have not been able to go here, this is the Creative Brief landing page. It's right here under assignment. This is the list. This is the handout here, which I already have open. So make sure you're looking at, this is exactly what I want. It's not, there is no guessing game here. This has been up here all semester or all term. So this is exactly what I want. And if you answer kind of these questions that I have here, you will be well on your way to being successful in this assignment. And then the last portion is either or. So the multimedia component is something that you would use as a complement in a face-to-face pitch. So if we were in this class face-to-face and I said, okay, turn in your creative brief and now give me the pitch as if I was the actual client, however you would do that, whether it was a video or a slideshow, or if you wanted to give a stab at, you know, creating your own radio commercial or something like that, that's fine. If that's not your thing and you want to give it a go with advertising writing and try to crank out some copy, then you can go with the second option. And that would be writing out the script for me, or writing out the actual magazine or advertising copy that you plan to include. Or if you were going to do like a letter in a direct mailer that you were going to send and say, hey, this is why you should volunteer your time, then you can do either one of those options. Okay, so this is exactly, literally exactly what I'm looking for. And when you submit it, you can submit multiple documents. So you can submit the Word document for the brief in APA format, and then you can do the attachment for the PowerPoint or whatever the case may be, and that will work for grading. Any questions about that?
No.
Yeah, I have a question. So can we do like a radio station commercial? I don't know, something. Would that work?
Yeah.
Okay, so would it have to be like a audio clip or like a video itself?
So if you're doing something that's audio only, you can do audio only. That's
Okay.
fine. Yeah, I've had it before, and actually had someone do something really well, like before, where they had like the creepy voice where they were talking all slow, like nice, cool, bad. And I was like, oh, it was good. Like made me want to buy something. So if that's something that you really want to like give it a go at, absolutely give that a go. But you know, some people like either or, so I'm always about options.
Okay.
Each title that you have, each title that's there, should it be like each one page?
No. I thought you were going toward section header, and I was like, yes, it should be its own section, but it doesn't have to be on its own page. Not at all.
Okay, so like we can put like the summary together and like some other stuff. We just have to make sure we title it, right?
Yes. Typically, everything should be, it can be all together. The only thing that will be on its own page is if you have an abstract in the front, which you guys don't have to have, and your references in the back will be on a separate page. But everything else, you can just go as long as you have those section headers in there.
Okay, so the references, when I went and talked to one of the people that worked at the place of my nonprofit, could I reference her? Because I used her card for one of mine.
Personal interview in APA. How do you cite a personal interview in APA format?
Okay.
And you just like their name, date, and then you'll put like personal interview.
Okay, so that would be one, and what would be another one? Like anything on the internet?
Yeah, well, geez, not anything on the internet.
Well, no, that's not what I mean. But like, if I find information on the internet, could I cite that?
Yeah,
okay.
If you have went to their website, that's a space, right? If you read a New York Times article about them or Houston Chronicle article about them, you can cite that. If you did any personal interviews, of course, you want to include that.
Okay.
Not Wikipedia, not anything.
No.
Kaiser, did you have your hand open? Hold on 1 second.
Okay. Let me know when I can talk. Okay.
Sorry. Okay. I'm like,
okay.
on a family vacation.
So when she said that, I actually thought about, okay, so if I do like, you know how I had those 5 clients, if they talked, but I somehow like summarized it or paraphrased what they said, do I still have to reference it? I'm just not like quoted. So, I mean, like, would I still have to reference it?
Yes, it's called paraphrasing.
Okay.
You say, according to so-and-so, you don't have to use direct quotes, but you say, according to so-and-so, the general vibe for the brand is blah, blah, whatever the case may be, right? But then you need to reference that person when you got that interview, and then you might put a parenthetical citation of like the date or something.
Okay. That makes sense. And for the second thing, on that option where you said we can either do the audio or the other thing, if I do like a video, like, can I do it like as a little skit, like a little skit commercial type of thing, like reenacting something, you know, like, because it would just be kind of cool for me to do that, because I'm a YouTuber in Houston, so that's what I do, is I make videos. So that'd be pretty cool.
Right. I mean, here's the thing, you guys, and this is why I don't like to put a lot of limitations on this assignment. Advertising can be pretty creative, right? And so even your approach, we do have that one polished document that you're absolutely going to turn in. But in the complimentary thing, I want you to be as creative as possible. If I was the actual client and you came in to pitch with me and you had a skit that was well put together and funny, and it was a video and it emphasized the point that you were trying to make in the actual written proposal, I think I would like that a little bit, right? So just think about ways that you would actually sell yourself or sell your idea and how you can do that creatively. And so if that works for you, then go ahead and do that.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. 8:45. Any final thoughts and questions?
No.
So I want to give you guys some reminders. Where are my reminders? Of course, for sure, tomorrow, don't forget that we have that moved up deadline for the discussion forum with the webinars. So they'll be due by 8 p.m. tomorrow. And then your course evaluations, I'm going to go ahead and drop the link for that tonight in the announcements to make sure you guys fill those out. They close on Wednesday. I really appreciate your feedback, of course. It's always very useful and helps me think about teaching the course the next time. So constructive criticism, I'm very open and receptive to that. And then lastly, you know your brief is due this Thursday by midnight, or 11:59 p.m. rather, and I will be grading like a crazy person, and your grades will be posted the next week on the 12th. So those are my final reminders. And if you want to request some time to chit chat with me in the next day or two, send me an email and we can set up something one-on-one.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, thank you. This is my my nephew. Like, everyone is curious about what we're doing over here at the table. This is my nephew, Joshua.
Hey, Joshua.
Hey, Joshua.
So I forgot how I was saying. I think we're wrapping it up. If you have any questions, send me an email. You can always ask an anonymous question on my Ask FM. Any other way you want to reach out to me. If you send me a Blackboard message, I'm not always the best about those. But any other way, please feel free to reach out to me. We have until Thursday. So I'm definitely available, even from the beach.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining me tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the class. And I hope I will see you all soon.
Yes. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye.
Be safe.
Thank you.